Good morning, Dante here. Welcome to the next edition of the Nomad blog. I'm in Giza in Cairo, Egypt. I'm in front of the Great Pyramids. Wow, it's been incredible. I also, noting here, I'm deciding to change this from the traveling vlog to the Nomad blog because I'm not traveling like so many out there do, living out of 3 bags and without a place to settle down and call home. Settle down for some weeks or months, okay, but without a home, this is a nomad life. And Egypt, this is the first time I've been here, and I really booked this ticket because I was en route to India, and the ticket from Istanbul to Chennai was the same price as a ticket to Cairo, from Istanbul to Cairo and then to Chennai. Egypt was, of course, on my bucket list. I think it's on many bucket lists or every bucket list. There's something about Egypt that mystifies the whole world, and I thought I would dive in. And it's been really enriching and beautiful and so intense. I thought that I knew it was intense. Like, I heard stories of people who have been here. My friend I was just talking to in Turkey was like, yeah, just don't buy anything. Like, literally don't buy anything. And I understand why that's the advice that he gave, but of course, you can't not buy anything. But for example, in certain areas, they're going to try to upsell you everything from water to the taxi to food to and the price of like the little trinkets is absurd compared to what they would actually sell it for, because their costs are so insignificant. And in moments that weren't so stressful, I like to play the game with this. In moments where they were, that's a lot. My recommendation for people coming here is to give yourself the time to do it well and have a lot of time to recuperate in between things. If I were to do this again, I would do it over 2 or even 3 weeks, giving me the chance to see every single site and also the chance to just stay in the hotel and not be hassled. And of course, when I'm going to places, especially for a short time, I mean, for a longer time, I'm a digital nomad, so I spend a lot of time at home working and doing my practices and everything, but this was a short one. And I don't want to stay put, but it's actually probably a good thing to chill out a little bit. The temples and the sites are really incredible, and I would, if I had the time, make videos with me talking, and here's a clip from there, and here's a clip from there, but that isn't really my style or what I'm interested in doing at this time. Maybe for some other videos in the future, I think it's a lot more engaging of a video. I'm doing this on the fly, and I'm not trying to capture the typical travel audience out there. I just want to share my experience, especially for those who are more interested in conscious ways of living, as my channel has already been catering to. So the temples, there's temples everywhere, or along the Nile, and there's some that are not along the Nile. I would guess there's maybe 50, I don't know the exact number, but there's many more than I was able to visit. I think I did about 8 or 10. And each one is breathtaking. If you want to see the photos, go to my Facebook page, Dante Shante. You don't have to scroll too much. I put all of them except one group of temples into a separate album. So in the photos, you can see the albums. And there's also videos of every place. The thing is, though, is that you can't really do weird things there, healing things, even meditation. And in order to do that, they expect a bribe from you, and it can be very cheap, like £10, 50 cents. They'll, if you gave them 5 and really like walked away, they would probably accept it too. I would give them 10 to 20 depending on how much of an extent they were offering me at that moment. But nonetheless, it is good to have that moment of really connecting with the place in ways beyond observing it and watching it, where of course you can feel the energy just walking around too, doing it mindfully. But yeah, it's a little bit bizarre. and a lot of these sites as well, if you talk to the right guard, you can pay them to see hidden things that are closed off to the public. And I'll tell my story about that in a little bit. And these hieroglyphics are so ancient and they're so well preserved, and some of these temples, they claim, were only used for 16 years. It was so quickly that the Christianization of this region happened, and then they even started to desecrate some of these monuments. And being here gives you this really deep sense of world history. I was talking to a hostel owner in Luxor. We were hanging out with a group of people in the night, and he was saying that maybe was that Luxor or Aswan? It's blending together in my mind now. But he was saying that Egypt is this country that everyone wants because over history, so many people have occupied Egypt, from the Romans and then the Turks, French, English. There is even more. I don't have the history memorized in my head, but of course colonization happened all around the world, but people have been fighting over these lands in Egypt and the Middle East, and there is something very powerful about these spots that blows me away. And it's this huge contrast of like the immense hectic energy of being hassled and the beeping in the cars, and I mean that's not that bad. I'm used to that from other places. It's the hassling. It's really the hassling that's intense and stressful. But I'm sure that it won't be as bad for some people who are very firm and can just say no, and I feel a little bit too nice, and sometimes I was literally like kids would follow me through the streets in some areas, or people would follow me through the streets, and I literally got to a point of like desperation where I'm like so stressed out by it that I'm like just start covering myself and yelling in the street. And like once you raise your voice a little bit, you don't have to totally shout, but raise it a little bit, they get the message. That was the only way that I could find to shake off the people that would just follow me. But they were usually innocent, and also people come up to you and just be like, hello money. There's few who do that, but there's many who start to want to be like, oh, tour, oh this, do you want that, do you want this? And just people even walking through Cairo being like, oh, come to my apartment and have a tea, we talk about this. And after 2 days of initially getting a little bit, I never got really trapped by them, but I entertained them. I did like walk around Cairo with one guy who said he wanted to show me something, but he was just trying to have them sell me papyrus, and they didn't hassle me. They were actually very nice. Didn't want to buy it, but after that I just learned to walk past them, ignore them, and that was the best strategy. Don't even look at what they're offering, don't look at them. And then there's this flip side of the people that are so super incredibly sweet and kind and generous here in Egypt. And I think this is the majority of the Egyptians. Of course, the hasslers are just much more prominent in your face, especially when I've booked hostels. And these hostels, a lot of them are called hostels. I still had a private room, and they are from $5 to, this one was like 15 in front of the pyramids. not immediately in front of the pyramids. You wouldn't have to pay probably more than 30, 40, 50 to get immediately in front, but I think that you must book much more in advance. I don't know. It's really cheap, and these hostel owners are really incredible people, taking care of the bags, some of them wanting to hang out. One of them gave me a free ride. And then through a Facebook friend, I was connected with this tour guide who also works with channels like Lee Carroll Cryon and other famous people. And he was such a sweet man, and would took me to his home, had his son pick me up back and forth, took me through the pyramids, took me on a tour. It was actually his birthday, which is the same day as the birthday of King Ramses, and on this day there's a solar alignment at a temple I didn't make it to, Abu Simbel, where the light shines through this hole in the temple quite perfectly to light up the entire place, and have the light of the sun shining on the face of this king. So it's a holy day for the ancient Egyptians. And he was a really just generous, amazing person. He charges usually quite high prices for his tours. I'm guessing this is what he says, but he let me pay totally on donation, gave me the download, but most importantly, he was just a nice person to chat with. And yes, he was also very helpful for me with some of the last minute things I had to take care of. So really grateful. And he mentioned he does healings and invocations to the gods and many things in the temples, and then longer tours, and that we can collaborate to create a tour in the future. And I'm actually really keen on this idea, because these sites, you really need a good guide to really understand everything and to get through the guards and the hassle without all of the it's too much without one. And he's a really genuine person, and it's so rare to find a guide that is open to the magic and the woo, and being able to do some rituals in the spaces. And he's aware of their power for working with sound healing, and he's done sound healing things, and just amazing energy, to be honest. And I was going through some things last night and feeling very stressed out, and he was talking me out of it, and I could really feel the genuine nature of this person. His name is Syed. So I think some people will jump to conclusions in countries like this after they get hassled that the people must be just this way, but it's totally not true. The majority of people are so sweet and so helpful and incredible. You just have to find them, but if you are booking good hostels, they don't have to be 5-star, and making connections ahead of time. This is not such a hard place to get around. You just have to put those blinders on for the hassle. I had a really incredible experience going to the Sekhmet temple that I shared about in a post. So outside the Karnak temple, I met this queer sibling. I looked at him, and instantly there was like this, he was right in front of me in the line. We just arrived right on that perfect time. So bizarre and synchronistic. And they were filming some things for this sound healing, a video about sound healing, and some offerings that they are doing. And we went into the part of Luxor where there's just a bunch of pillars. There's huge giant columns, pillars, and they were holding up this really big device that's kind of this circular bell-shaped thing, with some ankhs on it, and just getting the video of the sun shining through it within the temples. And it it was really we were there for maybe 3 minutes and before they noticed us, and then the guards are starting to hassle them, and of course I'm the one they invited me to join holding the thing. So I'm holding this giant thing, and I must be partially responsible, but they handled it. And they really didn't want us filming anything that's for another project there. It can be photos for ourselves or pictures to share the temple, but nothing more than this. And they made her delete the photos. Then we were walking around and they were following us everywhere. They still directed us where we wanted to go, to the Sekhmet temple, and actually they let us in to the back temple room where there's the statue of Sekhmet that was closed off. And I've worked with Sekhem, which is an energy healing modality, in some lineages connected with the goddess Sekhmet in the past, and really felt a strong connection to this being, who's a very fierce goddess of healing, yes, and also war and destruction. But she's very much connected to Hathor mythology. In one myth, she's on a rampage, and she was tricked into thinking that she's drinking the blood of humanity. Deep, right? But instead she drinks wine and they give her wine and telling her it's the blood of humanity. And she gets very drunk and falls asleep. And as she wakes up as the goddess Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty, motherhood as well. So going into that temple was quite an experience, and I'm getting kind of the chills again just now, just talking about it, where this energy transmission came through and this connection came through, and I left Sekhmet some offerings. I dropped other offerings accidentally while I was in that area, so it was perfect. She got a lot of blessings. So yeah, I mean, what else to say? Trying to keep these videos short also because I'm not I have to go really soon to the airport. And what this journey was I started in Cairo. I saw the Egypt Museum. I arrived quite late at night, and then the next night I took a night bus from Cairo to Aswan. I booked it to Luxor. It was better to start in Aswan. I told the people at the hostel Luxor, and then they gave me Aswan. You can book the tickets online yourself. They're really cheap, under $10. You don't have a bed. It is sleepable, but it is bright. You need an eye cover. They keep the lights on. Even though it's really hot in Egypt, you need to have your jackets and everything available. Of course, you don't put the bags anywhere other than up above your seat, so that isn't hard to do. Yeah, so Cairo, Aswan, one night Aswan, hired a private car to go up through Kuwambo, and I'm not saying that right, and Edfu. Can stop at Esna as well. It's quite small. There's some other smaller things in the area, and I think definitely it's going to be better in the future to go to the smaller things and do your private rituals in those containers. And then as you go up, as I went up, where did I go? So one night in Luxor, both sides, the Luxor temple, the Karnak temple, and Valley of the Kings, and some other things on that side. It can take you a whole one day on that east side of the Nile. But I did it really fast, and then up to the pyramids of Giza, and that's it. And it was, I think, 5 days and 6 nights that I was in Egypt. And this was the only time I've ever done something like this, where every single night I am in a different place, whether I'm in a hostel, train, hostel, train, hostel, train, hostel. Yeah, that's how I did it. And boy, is this exhausting. A lot of moving things, a lot of... I think I've gotten maybe 5 hours of sleep every single night here. 4 to 6, I would say. No more, for sure. On top of carrying things. And some days, like when I had that private car, like they gave us a very small breakfast, and the guy didn't speak English at all. So like I tried to ask him if we can please stop to eat, and he didn't really get it. And I had small snacks along the way, and I also wanted to do everything before the temples closed. So Yeah, I did have 2 days in a row actually, where it wasn't just an intermittent fast. It was a long intermittent fast. I mean, like 16 or 18 hours. But even without the sleep and sometimes without eating, like here I was just running on energy. And maybe this is the energy of the places or the energy of just being on this intense journey. But um, woo, it was strong. And I managed, and my body is tired and hurts a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous about this flight, but not that much. Um, wow. The last thing I will say is there's, oh yeah, the interacting with the Islamic culture is very beautiful and interesting and also a little bit challenging. It is really intense to see the mistreatment of women and all of the Islamic society and even parts of Middle Eastern culture that are not Islamic. There's this big divide between the genders where the women hang out with the women and the men hang out with the men, and there's not this like blending of the worlds except on special occasions, and that's bizarre. All women in their hijab and burqas and everything. Not burqas, niqab. Burqa is the full face covering. They maybe like 10% of people wear the niqab, which leaves the little eye slit. Here, the call to prayer, which happens 5 times a day, maybe like synchronistically, it'll just start right now, I hope so, is very intense. In Turkey, it wasn't, maybe I was not in the right area, but it wasn't like the entire city is blasting with this call at once. It's like you hear it and you hear the one that's closest to you, but here it's like this wall of sound that washes through everything, from one end of town to another, and it's like it's moving, but it's also a little bit scary. Like you can feel a bit of the fear of God in them. And nonetheless, like, I kind of liked every time that it's happened, but I think if I really lived in a place like this, I wouldn't like it. But then you have the other side where, like, like with Sayed last night, we were listening to Sufi music. It's so beautiful, so nice. So yeah, I mean, that's just part of it. But one thing that's nice about people who are Muslim is and take it somewhat seriously, is that they have a very strong ethic of fairness and not ripping people off. And for that reason, and probably for other reasons, because Turkey is the least super religious of the Islamic nations, but I never felt like people were going to steal things from me. I could leave things, people just leave things sitting in the bus station in some places in Turkey, like their bags unattended for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whereas like if you did that in India, the bag would be gone in a second. So that's really sweet and a good part of this culture. And of course, there's some oppression involved as well, but the religion itself is a path, I would say, as all of them are. And I don't like religion. I hate it. But I've out of respect as a foreigner, I've been able to show up with more respect here than I am for Christians back home. So hey, and so there is certainly oh yeah, but there is this fear of magic too. And there's a Turkish guy on the tour, the one tour I went on. I went on one tour with Syed and then a group tour, which was really necessary for Luxor because the sites aren't necessarily that close together. So you pay a lot less going in a group than you would having to hire a car to go to all of them yourself. Now, yeah, he was doing a coffee reading for himself, and the Egyptian people who saw that really, really didn't like it. Ooh, I'm running to the very end of the video, so running out of time. They don't like that, and the fact that they don't want the magic to happen means somehow that they respect it and they respect the energy of these places. These temples are ancient, but they're not alive anymore, and so there's a difference between these temples and living temples, and that there's a difference between these temples that aren't allowed to be used for their original purpose anymore versus the temples that are truly alive. And we have to remember that everything about the old ways is we have to find our own path. We have some past life memory, but these things are subject to a lot of distortion. So there is great power as well, and this is the next chapter of my journey, in discovering the old ways that are still alive and have never been fully shut out and suppressed. And so I'm really grateful. The next step of the journey is India. Though also so grateful that I got to see this and take this in, and I hope to come back again and perhaps, yes, bring some people together for a group tour with Syed and incorporate yoga and channeling into it. So an amazing collaboration. Stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching this video. Share it, pass it around, and yeah, take a look at the other pics and videos of the actual on-the-ground footage. Peace out.